There are things you never think you'll find yourself doing, and then there are things you never expect to be forced to do. For the past few weeks, I had been caught in a cycle of what I could only describe as forced understanding, forced silence, forced acceptance of things that no longer made sense. It was a game, one that I didn't even know I was playing, and I was losing. It started when I found her phone unlocked. The first time I saw it, it was innocent enough. A fleeting glance. I'd been getting out of bed one morning, brushing my teeth, and I saw it on the dresser beside me. Her phone, facing up. And there, at the top of the notifications, was a message that seemed out of place. It wasn't from me. It wasn't from her friends. And it definitely wasn't something that she would want me to see. The name on the screen read Bryan, a name I had never heard before. In a heartbeat, curiosity had overtaken me. I shouldn't have, I know, but I unlocked it. The text that was sitting there in plain sight was simple. I can't stop thinking about you. Tonight, I'm going to make sure you're seen. Are you ready for that? I froze. The words didn't make sense. I stared at them, running them through my head over and over. Was it some sort of joke? A weird typo? It had to be, right? I put the phone back, went through the motions of my day, and told myself I was being paranoid. She was probably texting a friend, and maybe it was some inside joke I didn't get. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I didn't forget. How could I? Over the next few days, things only got stranger. Little details, things I had never noticed before, began to emerge, and I couldn't unsee them. Mira, my wife, had always been unpredictable. In some ways, that's what I loved about her. But now, it seemed like every interaction with her was an unsolvable riddle. The next Friday evening, she came home later than usual. The work event she had mentioned the night before turned into a 10 p.m. arrival. When she walked in, she had this look about her, discomfort mixed with excitement. I couldn't quite place it. Long day, I asked, trying to keep the conversation normal, but she didn't look at me. She went straight for the fridge, grabbing a bottle of wine, something I'd never seen her drink after a busy day. Yeah, she replied shortly, uncorking the bottle with a practiced hand. Busy, but, I needed a little break. She poured herself a glass, and I couldn't help but notice how her eyes darted toward her phone. The same phone I had seen before. The same phone I now felt a strange need to check again. I couldn't shake it. Later, when she was in the bathroom, I decided to take a closer look. I wasn't proud of it, but I didn't care anymore. Something told me that if I didn't find out, I'd live in confusion forever. This time, when I picked up her phone, the lock screen flashed to life with a new notification. It wasn't Bryan. It wasn't even the usual group chats or social media updates. This one was more direct, and it made my blood run cold. You're mine tonight. Don't forget, we agreed. It's time to be seen, together. This can't wait any longer. I felt sick, but it was the next part of the message that stopped my heart. I'll meet you at the usual spot. Don't back out now. The words felt like they were carved into my mind. And in that instant, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just reading a random message. I was reading a secret that had been kept from me. A secret that, somehow, Mira had been hiding. The door creaked open, and Mira stepped back into the room. I quickly locked her phone again and placed it back on the counter, trying to look casual. But I couldn't stop the flood of thoughts that rushed through my mind. Who was Bryan? What was she hiding? What else had she been hiding from me all this time? I wanted to confront her. I wanted to ask her everything. But the thing that kept me silent was the nagging thought. She already knows. She already knows that I know. And if I speak up, it's game over. But I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. There was more to uncover. And now, I was determined to find out everything. The night dragged on, and I could feel the weight of the secret growing heavier in my chest. Mira was acting like nothing had changed, like everything was fine, but I could see it in her eyes. The same eyes that once held a look of trust now seemed to be clouded by something darker. I tried to act normal, tried to focus on the little things that used to keep me grounded. I made dinner like I always did, and we ate in silence, save for the occasional comment about the weather or work. But the air between us felt different, charged with an energy I couldn't understand. That night, when I finally climbed into bed next to her, I tried to close my eyes and pretend that nothing was wrong. But every time I breathed, I could feel the thrum of her secret reverberating through my body. I lay there, awake, watching the outline of her silhouette in the dark. I could hear her soft breathing, the rhythm of her chest rising and falling as if everything was perfectly normal. But it wasn't. Mira turned over, her back now facing me, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the distance between us. It wasn't physical. She was still lying next to me, still close, but emotionally, there was a wall I couldn't cross. I had no idea what she had been hiding from me, but I knew, deep down, that it was something big, something that could change everything. I reached over, my hand brushing against the cold space where she used to lie close to me, and for the first time in years, I felt a chill. The next morning, I acted as if nothing was different. Mira went about her day as usual, getting ready for work, putting on her makeup, preparing for whatever life had in store for her. I, on the other hand, was a mess inside. I had to know what was going on, and if I had to dig through every corner of her life to find out, I would. The questions were eating at me, getting louder with each passing minute. Who was Bryan? What did he mean by seeing her? Why had she agreed to meet him in secret? I didn't have answers, only the gnawing sensation that time was running out. That afternoon, when Mira left for her usual coffee meeting with the girls, I seized the opportunity. I knew she wouldn't be back for hours, and I needed answers. I grabbed her phone again, my heart pounding as I unlocked it and scrolled through her messages. My fingers trembled as I traced the conversation between Mira and Bryan. The texts were more than just casual exchanges now. They had become personal, intimate. Bryan wasn't just someone from her past. He was someone who had a clear hold over her, a hold that I hadn't seen before. I dug deeper, my anxiety building with each new message. They spoke about meeting at a place, a location that didn't sound familiar to me. It wasn't a cafe, or a park, or any public place I would have expected. It was a secluded spot, somewhere off the beaten path. I can't wait for tonight, Bryan's message said. It's been too long. This time, you won't be able to hide. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I scrolled back, desperate to find anything that would make sense of this. Mira had been hiding something from me. No, not just hiding it, concealing it. Every message, every word, every phrase was like a breadcrumb leading to a trail I wasn't sure I wanted to follow. My hands were shaking now, but I couldn't stop. I had to know. I had to understand what was happening in my own home, in my own marriage. The phone buzzed in my hands again, and I nearly dropped it. I stared at the screen. Are you ready for tonight? We agreed, Mira. It's time to be seen. No more hiding. I felt bile rise in my throat. This wasn't just about an affair. This wasn't just about her being unfaithful to me in the traditional sense. There was something deeper, darker, that I didn't fully understand. Something that felt like a game, a twisted power dynamic that I wasn't a part of. And as I sat there, alone in our living room, staring at the phone in my hands, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about Mira betraying me. This was about her becoming someone I didn't recognize, a person I didn't know. I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. I wasn't sure I could handle the truth. What would it mean for us if I found out everything? Suddenly, I heard the door open. Mira was home earlier than expected. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrambled to put the phone down, to act like everything was fine. But nothing felt fine anymore. She walked into the room, her eyes locking with mine. There was no warmth in her gaze, no spark of familiarity, just emptiness. Hey, she said, her voice sounding more like an accusation than a greeting. Hey, I replied, my voice tight. How was the meeting? It was fine. Her eyes flickered to the phone on the table, then back to me. You look tense. What's going on? I swallowed hard. I could feel the lie forming in my mouth, but for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to speak it. I could feel the truth rising within me, wanting to burst out. But the fear of what it might do to us, what it might do to me, kept me silent. I'm fine, I said instead, my voice barely above a whisper. Mira didn't respond right away. She just stared at me, as though waiting for something more, something that would make everything right again. But in that moment, I knew that everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. The days after that moment blurred together. I couldn't tell where one ended and the next began. The weight of the secret I had uncovered sat heavily in the pit of my stomach. Every time I looked at Mira, I saw her differently. The woman I had married, the woman I thought I knew, was slipping away from me. What I had once thought was a strong, loving marriage now felt like an illusion, one that I could see unraveling thread by thread. We went through the motions of daily life, but I felt like I was walking through a fog. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. What would I say? How could I even begin to explain that I knew the truth, that I had read her messages, that I knew she was meeting someone in secret? The idea of facing her, of hearing her excuses, or worse, her silence, paralyzed me. But something changed the next evening. Mira was getting ready for yet another work function, a vague term she had used for the past few months whenever she was out late. It wasn't uncommon for her to come home at odd hours, but tonight, something felt different. She seemed distracted. She barely spoke to me as she got ready. No small talk, no casual chatter. She was focused on her appearance, making sure every strand of hair was perfectly in place, adjusting her dress as if it was the most important thing in the world. I watched her in silence from the kitchen, the tension between us thick enough to slice. When she walked toward the door, her phone in hand, I felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. There was still this gnawing feeling in the back of my mind that I was losing her. Maybe I had already lost her, and I was too blind to see it. "Are you going to be home late again?" I asked, my voice sounding more desperate than I intended. She paused at the door, her fingers lingering on the handle for a moment longer than usual. She didn't look at me. "I'm not sure," she said flatly. "Don't wait up." And just like that, she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, and I was left in the silence of our home. But tonight felt different. Tonight, I wasn't going to just sit around waiting for the pieces to fall into place. I had to act. I had to find out everything. I grabbed her phone once again, this time with a sense of urgency. As I unlocked it, I realized I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was looking for the truth, whatever it was, whatever it would mean for us. I had to know. I scrolled through her messages, my heart racing with each swipe. I knew I was crossing a line, but I had already crossed it the moment I picked up her phone. And then I saw it. A message that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just another message from Bryan. It wasn't a simple flirtation or a harmless exchange. This message was different. "Tonight's the night. Don't forget what we talked about. This is your last chance. Meet me at 8. I'll be waiting at the spot." I froze. My mind spun as I tried to process what I was seeing. The spot, that location from the previous messages, wasn't just some random place. It was somewhere I had never heard of, a place that seemed deliberately vague, deliberately secretive. My mind raced with possibilities. What was Mira involved in? What had she agreed to? And why was she going along with this? My hands were trembling now, and I had to force myself to focus. I scrolled back through the messages, looking for any clues, any patterns that would help me make sense of it all. The conversation between Mira and Bryan had shifted in tone. It wasn't just casual flirting anymore. They spoke as if they were planning something bigger, something that required secrecy. Mira was agreeing to things I had no idea about. And then, there was a message that caught my attention. "I'll be waiting at the usual place. Don't be late. You've been avoiding this for too long. It's time to be seen." I felt my stomach drop. It's time to be seen. Those words echoed in my mind. What did that mean? And who, exactly, was Mira going to meet? What was this all about? I couldn't sit there any longer, torn between the desire to confront her and the overwhelming fear of what I might find. But just as I was about to put the phone down, the door clicked open. Mira was back. I hadn't heard the car pull up, but there she was, standing in the doorway, looking at me with a mixture of surprise and something else, something I couldn't quite place. Her eyes darted to the phone in my hands, the phone that had just exposed her secret life. Her entire body tensed. For a split second, I saw the mask slip. The calm, composed woman I had known seemed to falter, and the truth was there, right in front of us, hanging in the air between us like a storm ready to break. "Are you going to explain yourself?" I asked, my voice hoarse. It was the first time I'd spoken in hours. The words felt like they were choking me. Mira took a step back, her face paling. "Ethan, who is Bryan?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "What the hell is going on? What is this spot you're meeting him at? What do you mean by being seen?" Her eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing as if she was searching for the right words. But there were no words that could make sense of this. She had crossed a line, and we both knew it. The silence between us stretched on, thick with tension. And then, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't want you to find out this way, Ethan. But I guess there's no going back now, is there?" I felt a chill run through me. It was the calmest admission of guilt I had ever heard, and it sent a wave of dread through my body. What had I gotten myself into? There are moments in life when you cross a threshold, and once you've stepped over it, there's no going back. No matter how much you might wish you could. In that brief, lingering silence after Mira spoke, I felt the weight of that threshold crash down on me. Her voice, once warm and comforting, now sounded foreign, cold, distant, as though I was hearing it from miles away. I didn't want you to find out this way, Ethan, she repeated, her eyes not meeting mine. There was no apology in her tone, no hint of remorse. It was as if she was speaking in a matter-of-fact way, like a woman discussing her grocery list. But this wasn't just a simple conversation about what she was going to pick up at the store. This was about betrayal. This was about the destruction of everything I thought I knew. What do you mean, find out this way? I asked, my voice shaking now, frustration rising up within me like a tidal wave. What does any of this mean? What is going on, Mira? She hesitated again, her fingers playing nervously with the edge of her sleeve. I could see her thoughts racing. She wanted to explain. She wanted to smooth things over. But the lies, oh, the lies, had already built up so high that they couldn't just be brushed aside. You've been distant lately, Ethan, she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. I thought you knew. I thought you could feel it. We were drifting. And Bryan, he's someone I've needed, in ways that you haven't been able to give me. I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. The words she was saying didn't make sense. Mira wasn't a woman who needed someone else. She wasn't a woman who would go behind my back. Or so I thought. But here she was, confessing to a secret life, a life I never saw coming. I took a step forward, the urge to confront her now unbearable. You needed him? My voice was rising, my words sharp as daggers. For what? You couldn't talk to me? You couldn't come to me when things started to feel off? Instead, you hide everything behind my back, and you've been lying to me for… How long, Mira? How long? Her eyes flickered up at me, and for the first time, I saw something real in her gaze, fear. She was scared. I could see it now, clearly. Mira wasn't just defending her actions anymore. She was cornered. I didn't know how to tell you, she said, voice breaking. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I kept it hidden, maybe things would just go back to the way they were. But they didn't. And Bryan isn't just some fling. He's someone I've been seeing for months now. I froze. Months? My mind went numb. My body stiffened as if someone had plunged ice into my veins. I could hardly process her words, let alone accept them. It wasn't just an affair. It was an ongoing relationship, something that had been going on for months, something she had kept from me for months. Months. I repeated, the word hanging in the air between us like a death sentence. All this time, you've been seeing him, and I had no idea? Mira nodded slowly, as if accepting the weight of what she had to confess. I'm sorry, Ethan, but I've been unhappy for so long. I thought that maybe if I found someone else, if I found someone who saw me the way I wanted to be seen, things would change. But I didn't mean for it to get this far. The words spilled from her mouth like a flood. I couldn't stop her. It was as if she had been holding on to this secret for too long, and now there was no stopping the truth from pouring out. But no matter how many words she said, no matter how many apologies or explanations, none of it felt real to me. The reality of what she had done, of what she had kept from me, was too much to bear. And what about us? I asked, my voice suddenly quieter, more resigned. What about the life we built? What about everything? Did any of that matter to you, Mira? Was any of it real? Her face softened, her expression full of regret. But it was too little, too late. Of course it mattered. I loved you, Ethan. But love isn't enough. Not when you're not being seen for who you really are. Not when you're not being fulfilled. I didn't know what else to do, so I turned to Bryan. He was someone who listened, someone who understood. And I needed that. The room felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in on me. Her words were like a weight pressing down on my chest, suffocating me. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about something deeper, something darker. Mira wasn't just admitting to a betrayal. She was admitting to a need that she couldn't fulfill with me. And I wasn't sure I could ever look at her the same way again. I felt like a fool. I had been so blind, so naive, believing that everything was fine, that things were good between us. And all the while, Mira had been living a double life. Her words rang in my ears like an echo. I thought you knew. Did I know? Did I feel it? Maybe somewhere deep down, I had sensed the distance, the coldness. But I never imagined it would lead to this. I never imagined I would be sitting here, hearing her admit that she had been seeing someone else, someone who had become a part of her life in ways I never could. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand that she take it all back, that she undo the damage she had done. But something inside me, something I couldn't quite understand, made me pause. I wasn't just angry. I was lost. I didn't know who this woman in front of me was anymore. I didn't know what was real and what was just part of the web of lies she had spun. Mira seemed to sense my hesitation. She stepped toward me, her voice softer now, almost pleading. Ethan, I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy everything we had. But I was looking for something, and I found it in Bryan. I don't know how to undo what I've done, but I need you to understand it wasn't about you. It wasn't your fault. I didn't know how to respond. My heart was torn between anger and something else, something far more painful, betrayal. Mira wasn't the woman I had married. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew. She was someone else entirely, and I wasn't sure if I could ever get her back. I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. I need time, I said, my voice tight. I need space to think about all of this. I don't know what to say to you right now, Mira. I don't know if I can forgive you. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I understand. And with that, I walked away. The hardest part, I realized, wasn't confronting Mira with the truth. It was accepting that the truth might be too much to bear, and that maybe, just maybe, the man I thought I was had disappeared somewhere in the fog of lies and deception. Time passed slowly in the days that followed. Mira and I continued to share the same space, but it was as if we were living in two separate worlds. There were no more conversations about our day, no more casual gestures of affection. We existed in a sort of suspended animation, both pretending to be in a relationship, but neither of us truly there. The silence between us grew louder with each passing hour, and I began to wonder how much longer we could both keep pretending. I still hadn't confronted her fully. She had apologized, but her words were empty, hollow. She hadn't explained anything about Bryan, who he was, how they met, what she was feeling. The lies she told me, the life she'd hidden, all seemed like a distant dream I no longer recognized. There were too many pieces missing from the puzzle, and it wasn't just her affair that was the issue, it was everything. It was the fact that my entire marriage, everything I had built my life around, had been built on a lie. I couldn't just forgive her without understanding what had really happened. I couldn't let it go. But the truth, it seemed, wasn't something Mira was willing to share fully. Instead, I found myself growing more and more distant, more consumed by the mystery of her betrayal than I ever imagined possible. The pain of not knowing gnawed at me, and with every passing day, I felt myself slipping away from her even more. It was late one night when I couldn't take it anymore. Mira was in bed, her back to me as always, and I lay there staring at the ceiling. The weight of everything was crushing me. The unanswered questions, the lies, the betrayal. It was too much. I couldn't breathe under the pressure of it all. In a moment of weakness, I grabbed my phone and opened up the messages again. The same ones I had seen before, the texts between Mira and Bryan. The words that I could never forget. But tonight, they felt different. Tonight, I wasn't just reading the words. Tonight, I was hunting for something. Anything that would give me clarity. I scrolled through the conversation, my heart pounding in my chest. The last message I saw was the same as before. I'll be waiting at the usual spot. Don't be late. You've been avoiding this for too long. It's time to be seen. But this time, something in me snapped. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, that I could move forward without knowing what she was hiding. If Mira wasn't going to tell me the truth, then I was going to find out myself. I needed to follow her. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The idea of it terrified me. The thought of confronting her in the moment when I knew she was betraying me sent waves of panic through my body. But the need for answers, for closure, was greater than my fear. I lay there for what felt like an eternity, waiting for her to fall asleep. When her breathing evened out, I slipped out of bed and grabbed my coat. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to move quietly, to be discreet. I didn't want her to wake up and find me gone. But the truth was, I didn't care anymore. I had to know what was going on. I waited for what felt like hours, but when the time finally came, Mira got up, just as I expected. She moved silently, almost as if she knew I was watching, and I felt my heart race in my chest. She didn't say anything to me as she gathered her things and slipped out of the house. I waited a few moments before following her. I followed her from a distance, careful not to be seen. I didn't know where she was going, but I had a sense that she wasn't going to just some casual meetup. No, this was different. This was something secret, something that I had never been a part of. The longer I followed her, the more I realized how much I had been kept in the dark, how much of her life I had never known. I watched her pull into a dark parking lot on the outskirts of town. My pulse quickened. This wasn't a cafe or a bar. This wasn't a place where someone would just meet a friend for a drink. This was something else entirely. Something that felt wrong in every way. I parked my car a few spaces down and sat there for a moment, watching her walk toward the entrance of a building I didn't recognize. I waited, my mind spinning with possibilities. Who was she meeting? What was she doing here? And why had she been so careful not to tell me about it? I waited for what felt like an eternity, trying to stay calm, but my nerves were raw, my mind racing. Then I saw him. Bryan. I didn't recognize him at first. He wasn't the person I had imagined when I read the texts. He wasn't the smooth-talking lover I had pictured in my head. He was ordinary. In fact, he looked almost like someone I could have passed on the street without a second thought. But there was something in the way he walked toward Mira that made my stomach turn. They met outside the building, a brief exchange of words before they embraced. Mira didn't seem to hesitate. She kissed him. The kiss was deep, passionate. The kind of kiss I had only ever shared with her when we first met, when everything was new and exciting. The kiss that was supposed to belong to us. I felt something inside me snap. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel my chest tightening. I wanted to run over to them, to yell, to confront them both. But I couldn't. I couldn't move. I was frozen, a witness to my own destruction. They walked inside the building together, and I sat there, unable to process what I had just seen. What was I supposed to do now? What could I do? The truth was right in front of me, and yet, I still didn't know what to do with it. I drove home in a daze, my thoughts spiraling out of control. I could still see the way they kissed, still feel the sting of the betrayal deep in my chest. But the worst part of it all? The worst part was that I had let it go on for so long. I had let her lie to me. I had let her deceive me, all while I pretended everything was okay. When I got home, Mira was already in bed, as though nothing had happened. She was asleep, her back to me. I stood there for a moment, just looking at her. I wanted to scream, to wake her up and demand the truth. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had to process everything first. I had to think. But one thing was clear now. There was no going back. The truth had been revealed, and now, I had to decide what to do with it. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single moment of rest. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, the sound of Mira's steady breathing the only thing breaking the silence. The images of what I had witnessed, the kiss, their embrace, played on an endless loop in my mind. Every time I tried to close my eyes, I saw them together. I could still feel the weight of the betrayal hanging heavy in the air. It was suffocating. The worst part wasn't just the kiss. It wasn't even the fact that she was meeting him in secret. It was the realization that Mira, the woman I had trusted with everything, my heart, my future, my life, had been lying to me for months. I thought I knew her. I thought we had something real, something unshakable. But it was all built on a lie, and that thought crushed me more than anything else. I spent hours lying awake, replaying every conversation, every moment, every glance that should have tipped me off. How had I been so blind? How had I missed the signs? Mira had always been a little distant, a little too busy, but I had written it off as work stress or personal issues. I hadn't questioned her because I didn't want to. I wanted to believe that everything was fine, but it wasn't. In the cold light of morning, I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. She was still sleeping soundly beside me, her face relaxed, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. Part of me wanted to wake her, to confront her right there. I wanted to ask her what she had been doing with Bryan, why she had been seeing him, why she had to go behind my back. I wanted to demand the truth from her, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. She had already shown me who she really was, and nothing she could say would change that. I got out of bed quietly and went to the kitchen. I had to think. I needed to gather my thoughts, figure out what I was going to do next. I couldn't keep living like this, caught between the man I used to be and the man I had to become to deal with the reality of what was happening. I walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline, trying to make sense of the chaos in my head. I wanted to make a decision. I needed to do something, but the weight of everything was overwhelming. Mira had already betrayed me once, and I couldn't let it happen again. I had to act. But how? I picked up my phone, fingers trembling slightly as I dialed a number I hadn't thought to call in years. It was a number I had kept in the back of my mind, a safety net I had never needed until now. The line rang twice before a voice on the other end picked up. Ethan. It was Alex, an old friend of mine from college. He was someone I trusted, someone who had always been there for me, even when things were tough. Yeah, I said, my voice tight. I need help. I need advice. Of course, man. What's going on? His tone shifted instantly, sensing the seriousness in my voice. I think my wife's having an affair. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then Alex spoke again, quieter now. Jesus, Ethan. I'm sorry to hear that. But are you sure? I exhaled slowly. I've seen it with my own eyes, Alex. She's meeting someone named Bryan. She's been seeing him for months. I followed her last night. I saw them together. She kissed him. There was another long pause, and then Alex spoke, his voice calm but firm. Look, man, I know this is painful, but you need to figure out what you want to do next. You can't keep living in this limbo. Either you confront her, or you move on. You have to make a decision. I leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of his words. He was right, of course. I couldn't keep pretending like nothing was wrong. But part of me was terrified. Terrified of what would happen if I confronted Mira. Terrified of what the truth might mean for us. For me. I don't know if I can do this, Alex. I said quietly, the vulnerability slipping through. I don't know if I can face her. I don't know if I want to. Then you need to take a step back, Alex replied. Give yourself some space. You don't have to make a decision today, Ethan. But you can't keep living in denial either. You have to decide whether you want to fight for this or if it's over. Only you can make that call. His words hit me harder than I expected. The truth was, I had been avoiding the inevitable. I had been hoping that maybe, just maybe, things would fix themselves. That Mira would snap out of whatever this was and come back to me. But I knew now that I was kidding myself. She had already made her choice. Thanks, Alex, I said, my voice tight. I'll figure it out. I just needed to hear it from someone else. Someone who's not caught up in all of this. I'm here, man. Always. Just let me know what you decide. But don't drag this out longer than you need to. I hung up the phone, feeling more confused than ever. Part of me wanted to call Mira right then, to demand the answers I deserved. But another part of me was terrified of what I might hear. What if she told me she was leaving me for him? What if she was already planning a future without me? The silence in the house was deafening as I walked back to the bedroom. Mira was still asleep, her back to me. I stood there for a moment, watching her, wondering who she really was. Who had she become? The woman I had married was slipping away, and I wasn't sure if I could get her back. I wasn't sure if I even wanted to. But one thing was clear, I couldn't keep living this lie. The man I used to be was gone, and in his place stood someone new. Someone stronger, someone who could face the truth. The question was, what would that truth mean for me? What would it mean for us? I had to know. I had to confront her. And I had to be ready for whatever that meant. The decision to confront Mira had been gnawing at me for days. It was like I could feel the weight of it pressing against my chest, suffocating me, making it impossible to breathe. The anger, the confusion, the betrayal, it all wrapped itself around me like a heavy blanket, too tight to escape from. I had spent days replaying every conversation, every word, every moment we had shared. I thought I knew who she was, who we were. But now, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been living a lie, that I had built my life on something that wasn't real. I watched her for a moment longer. She was still asleep, her face calm and untouched by the chaos that had taken over my world. I couldn't help but wonder if she was still the same woman I had fallen in love with, or if she had become someone else entirely. The Mira I had known seemed so far away now, as if she was a ghost from a past life. I grabbed my phone again, staring at it, as if hoping it might offer some kind of solution. But there were no answers. Only silence. Only the echo of unanswered questions. I didn't want to wait any longer. I couldn't. I stood up, moving quietly through the house, trying to gather my thoughts. The confrontation was coming, and there was no way around it. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep living in this half-life, torn between what I knew and what I wanted to believe. The truth had already been laid bare, and now, it was time for Mira to face it. When she finally stirred, I was already sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked at me, her eyes still heavy with sleep, but there was something different in her gaze. I don't know what it was, a sense of guilt, maybe, or the realization that she couldn't hide from me any longer. She sat up slowly, brushing her hair out of her face. "Morning," she said softly, trying to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I didn't answer right away. My mind was racing, every thought a whirlwind of frustration and pain. I couldn't let it all spill out at once. I had to be calculated, to stay focused. "Mira," I finally said, my voice steady but tinged with something I couldn't quite name. "We need to talk." Her expression shifted, the smile faltering as she looked at me. She could tell something was off, but she didn't know what. "Not yet." "About what?" she asked, a hint of nervousness creeping into her voice. I felt my pulse quicken, but I kept my calm. I couldn't let her see how much this was hurting me. I had to stay in control, even if I felt like I was falling apart on the inside. "About Bryan," I said, my voice sharp now. Her face went pale. I saw the panic in her eyes, the way she froze for just a second before she tried to cover it up with a forced smile. "What about him?" she asked, though I could tell she already knew. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. The words felt like they were stuck in my throat, but they had to come out. I had to say them. "Don't play dumb, Mira," I said, my voice low. "I know about him. I know you've been seeing him for months. I know you've been lying to me." Her face hardened, the calm mask slipping as she pulled her knees to her chest, almost as if she was trying to protect herself from what was coming. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way she avoided my gaze, but she didn't speak. "You've been lying to me this whole time," I continued, my voice rising now, the anger bubbling up. "While I've been sitting here, thinking everything was fine, you've been with him. Behind my back." She finally looked at me, but there was no apology in her eyes, only defensiveness. She opened her mouth to speak, but I wasn't finished. "I followed you the other night," I said, my words cutting through the air. "I saw you with him. I saw the kiss. I saw everything. Don't try to deny it." Her breath caught, and for a second, I thought she might break. But then she just stared at me, her face emotionless. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course you didn't." I spat back, the frustration and pain boiling over. "You didn't want me to find out, but you didn't mind living this double life, did you? You didn't mind lying to me, to my face, every single day." "I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan," she said, her voice pleading now. "I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to make it stop before it got out of control. I thought I could fix it on my own." "Fix it?" I repeated incredulously. "How could you possibly fix this on your own? You're married to me, Mira. You don't get to hide behind excuses." She took a deep breath, clearly struggling with her emotions, but she didn't back down. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to betray you, but I needed something that you weren't giving me anymore. I was falling apart, Ethan, and Bryan. He was there. He listened. He made me feel seen." My chest tightened at her words. It wasn't the affair that hurt me the most. It was the realization that I hadn't been enough for her, that she felt so distant from me, so abandoned, that she had to turn to someone else. My mind raced, trying to process the weight of what she had just confessed. "I wasn't enough for you," I whispered, my voice almost breaking. "All those years we spent together, everything we built. You couldn't have talked to me? You couldn't have told me you were feeling this way?" Mira looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "I didn't know how," she said, her voice barely audible. "I thought if I could fix things on my own, I wouldn't have to hurt you. But I was wrong. I know that now." The silence between us grew, thick and suffocating. I was drowning in it, in the weight of the betrayal, in the years I had spent believing that our love was unbreakable. I wanted to scream, to throw everything in my path, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she looked, broken, vulnerable, remorseful. But I couldn't just forgive her. "Not yet. You've destroyed everything, Mira," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Her eyes welled up with tears, and she reached out, as if trying to touch me, but I pulled back instinctively. She needed to understand that the damage had been done. There was no going back. "I know," she whispered, the tears falling freely now. "I know I've ruined everything, and I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. But I'm sorry, Ethan. I am." Her words hung in the air, but they didn't offer me any relief. The apology felt too little, too late. I was left standing there, wondering if the love I had once felt for her could ever survive this. I didn't know, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine anymore. The silence between us felt like it could stretch forever. I stood there, my chest tight, feeling the weight of every word that had been spoken. Mira sat on the bed, her face stained with tears, her eyes searching mine, hoping for something, anything, that would tell her we could still make it through this. But the truth was, I didn't know. I didn't know if we could fix what was broken or if the pieces were too scattered to put back together. But as I stood there, looking at her, something shifted inside me. The anger, the pain, it was all still there, lingering just beneath the surface. But it wasn't the only thing that remained. There was still a part of me that loved her. There was still a part of me that believed in what we had, despite everything. I had to decide if that part of me was enough to start rebuilding, to face the future with her, or if the damage had been done beyond repair. I took a deep breath and sat down beside her on the bed, the weight of my decision hanging in the air between us. Myra's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, we both just sat there, letting the silence stretch on. But this time, it didn't feel like suffocating silence. It felt like space to think, to breathe, to figure out what we wanted. "I'm not going to lie," I said quietly, my voice still rough. "What you did, it hurt me in ways I can't even explain. I don't know if you can fully understand the pain you caused, Mira, but I need you to understand something else, too." She nodded quickly, her eyes wide with remorse. I know I hurt you. And I'm so sorry, Ethan. More than you could ever imagine. I never wanted to make you feel this way, I swear." I looked at her for a long moment. Her words were sincere, and I could see the regret in her eyes. But it wasn't just the words that mattered. It was the way she had come to me now, broken and willing to face the consequences of her actions. She wasn't running away from this. She was standing here, with me, ready to face what we had created together, no matter how messy or painful it was. "I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "But I do know that we've been through a lot together, and I'm not ready to just throw everything away. Not yet." Myra's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they were different. They weren't just tears of guilt. They were tears of hope, of relief, as if she were finally starting to understand that there was a chance. A chance for us. "I'll do whatever it takes, Ethan. I'll prove to you that I can be the woman you need. I'll show you that I can change, that I can earn your trust back, if you'll give me the chance." I took her hand in mine, my thumb gently brushing across her skin, the warmth of her touch grounding me in the moment. We had a long road ahead of us, but I realized that I wasn't willing to give up on her just yet. We both made mistakes. We both needed to grow. But there was something in the way we still cared for each other, something worth fighting for. "I don't know what the future holds," I said, my voice soft now, filled with more uncertainty than anger. "But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to rebuild with you, Mira. One step at a time. But it's going to take time. And we're both going to have to work for it." Mira squeezed my hand tightly, tears still flowing, but now they seemed to be tears of relief. "I'll work for it, Ethan. Every day. I love you, and I want to make this right." "I love you too," I said quietly, my heart heavy but hopeful. The truth was, I didn't know what the future would look like. But in that moment, I realized something important. We were both broken, yes, but we were still here, still fighting. And that, in itself, was worth something. It wasn't a perfect solution. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. But it was real, and it was ours. We didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long time, I believed that we could find our way back to each other. Not immediately, not without effort, but we could. Together. I leaned forward and kissed her, soft and slow, the way we used to kiss when things were simple, when life hadn't gotten complicated. It wasn't about forgiveness in that moment, or about forgetting. It was about a decision, a choice to keep moving forward, one day at a time. And as I pulled away from her, I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't the end of our story, but maybe it was the beginning of something new. Maybe it wasn't too late.